If your Pinterest or YouTube algorithm is anything like mine, you would have noticed an influx of Copenhagen related style, and I am so here for it. Whether it be them gallivanting around town on their bikes looking absolutely effortless, I feel like the marketing team behind the Scandi Girl Rise needs a raise. I love how cool and chic and relaxed a lot of their silhouettes and color play is, while still being a bit fun and avant garde. So, today we'll be breaking down the differences and similarities between Copenhagen and Stockholm style and how you can integrate these elements into your wardrobe to achieve your own version of Scandi Girl style. Grab your tea or coffee and let's get into it. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, The United Colors of Style, where the divas are into details. So, without further ado, let's dive in. A quick disclaimer before we get started. I know a lot of people get sensitive about discussing the style of a certain city or a certain country because they feel as though it's reducing so many different types of people and so many different types of style to one thing that they may not identify with, even though they are from that city or country. And I completely understand where you're coming from, but today we're really analyzing what's being pushed on social media. So, the marketing and branding behind Copenhagen style, behind Stockholm style. So, of course, I don't know everyone in these countries individually. I have been to both countries, but obviously everyone is different. And I'm not saying that everyone dresses the same or dresses exactly like this. When analyzing Scandinavian style through the lens of their use of color, I would say that they both overarchingly have a more neutral color palette. But one of the big differences is that Copenhagen style, I would say, has a lot more of a playfulness when it comes to pops of color that they integrate into their outfits. So a lot of times they'll use the neutral wardrobe palette. So, kind of their more staple garments like pants and tops, for example, will be more neutral. And then a bag or a scarf or a hat or even sometimes outerwear will be that more statement, and of course shoes as well, will be that more statement pop of color in a very vibrant and bold color. And I think it's just so much fun, especially I know it's a super cold place and winters are long. So I'm sure it's so much more enjoyable and kind of fun and bright to integrate those pops of colors when, the weather isn't necessarily what you want it to be. So I think, again, that's another way that fashion can just kind of brighten up our mood or show a more playful side of our personalities, which is why I love talking about personal style and fashion so much. But anyways, I digress. So when I look at Stockholm style, I would say they tend to lean more toward a more restrained, monochromatic color palette with more like whites, grays, and maybe soft pastels. So I would say that it's just very much more of that subtle, muted, not wanting to maybe stand out as much and wanting a more cohesive outfit. So nothing jarring or juxtapositioning anything. I don't even know if that's a word, but you get what I mean. Nothing that really provides too strong of contrast. The whole outfit is a little bit more cohesive in color palette. And I think that's more, indicative of a more, restrained, refined, an understated elegance, so to say, type of vibe. Whereas I think Copenhagen style is a lot more like trying to brighten up and, show a little bit more playfulness, or at least that's how I interpret it. Moving on to silhouette, I would say that Copenhagen style again is a lot more playful, not only with just color, but also when it comes to playing with different proportions and silhouettes. So I would say that they really love to be a little bit more exaggerated with some of their more oversized silhouettes. So think voluminous coats, really super wide leg trousers, and boxy jackets that kind of have a more modern street style influence. pants. And I think that really kind of plays into the coolness of, I think, Copenhagen fashion and how it's become this really hot spot for, street style, and a lot of these awesome brands are popping up. And I think it's fun to see how playful they can be and how innovative and at times avant-garde they can be, while still having some level of restraint with sometimes a more neutral color palette, as discussed in the previous section. So I think Copenhagen is really good at that juxtaposition and having that little bit of tension that makes fashion so fun. And then when you move on to Stockholm style, I would say that Stockholm fashion is generally more tailored and streamlined. I think the focus is definitely a lot more on more structured lines that are sharp and polished, and definitely more of sometimes a more oversized blazer, but not in an exaggerated way as Copenhagen style. I would say that it's more relaxed fit or drop shoulder rather than like a truly disproportionate or largely proportioned blazer or suit pant, etc. So I think that's one of the big differences I see when it comes to silhouette play. I think, again, Stockholm style is very much more muted, more, restrained. I think it's a lot more about that whole idea of timelessness, quote unquote. I don't necessarily believe in that, but that balanced approach, that it's not too much of anything, it's right in the middle. They even have a word in Swedish for not being too much. And I'm not going to say it because I don't want to butcher it, but it's very much embedded in their culture and in their society to not be too much. So I think that's where Copenhagen kind of is a bit different, where they do want to stand out. They do want to be a little bit more playful and fun, whereas I think Stockholm is a lot more restrained and refined. So, when it comes to texture and materials, I would say that Stockholm style, especially designers like Scandi, really embrace a wide range of textures, from chunky knits to leather, and really enjoy kind of mixing materials for a playful yet functional look. And I think this also trickles down to the street style you see from Copenhagen street style videos. I think a lot of the people that they interview and the people that they highlight not only play with color and silhouette, but also patterns, the different textures that they put together, the juxtaposition, and even just the shoes that they choose with the outfit. Like, I feel like Copenhagen girlies really mastered wrong shoe theory. And so I think a lot of times they are more ready and willing, again, to stand out, be bold, try something new, and really play with those textures. Whereas I think with Stockholm style, it's often very much defined by really refined materials that kind of play into that more quiet luxury aesthetic, where it seems like the outfit, instead of trying to be segmented and kind of more like color block, texture block, they really lean into that more. It should be a cohesive outfit, a whole outfit, a outfit that's really just harmonious across the board. So whether that be monochromatic, whether that be all the same texture, etc., I think they like materials that are a lot more relaxed, that are flowy, but I wouldn't say there's as much texture play as you find in Copenhagen street style videos when you look at the Stockholm street style. But again, everyone is different. I'm sure that there are exceptions to this rule, but this is just what I've analyzed from my research. The last lens I want to analyze the two different Scandi styles through are their adherence to trends. And I feel like Copenhagen style, like I've mentioned previously, seems to be a lot more bold. I think there's a lot more playfulness and willingness to stand out in more pops of color, but also in silhouette and texture play. So I think that to them, they're a little bit more willing to take those fashion risks. I think, especially even when you look at color, I think there's a lot more color blocking that happens in Copenhagen fashion, whereas I think Stockholm style is more muted, more pastels, more of those kind of easy breezy colors that aren't necessarily neutrals, but are still kind of refined and restrained. So I think that's a really big kind of difference between the two Scandi styles. I also think, in Copenhagen style, there's a lot more playfulness with different types of shoes, different types of accessories. I think there's also a lot more of a playfulness with materials and different kind of aesthetics behind these materials. So I feel like nylon is more associated with that gorp core kind of outdoorsy material. And then there's also a lot of play with leather and cowboy boots, so that more Western style. So they're a lot more willing to integrate these different trends and aesthetics in a very colorful and kind of bold outfit. So I think there's a lot of interest in streetwear and those influences. And I think there's a lot of kind of juxtaposition between looking effortless but still making a statement. And I think with Stockholm style, it's a lot more polished and leaning towards like a more minimalist chic. I think there's a lot more of an emphasis on looking put together and kind of favoring that more minimalist ensemble that is more reminiscent to that whole Scandinavian simplicity and kind of like the different interiors that they're known for with the very minimalistic lines. So I think that's a little bit more Stockholm style. And it leans toward a more, again, like harmonious, very kind of almost timeless. And I hate using that word, but I can't think of another one right now. So I think it's just a lot about that beauty and joy and simplicity and harmony. Now that you hopefully have a better understanding of the similarity and differences between the different Scandi styles, I wanted to get into the different aspects and elements that you can include in your own wardrobe to kind of get the essences of each style without copying and pasting or even having to shop at all the different Danish and Swedish brands. So, again, Copenhagen style, the vibe is more bold, playful, experimental. Stockholm style, more clean, minimalistic, modern, with a focus on simplicity. And I think at the end of the day, if you really are drawn to more Copenhagen style, I would say that you have more of a street style experimental vibe about you, which is awesome. I think if you just add some colorful layers, texture play, statement pieces, etc., like you'll definitely be able to encompass that style. Whereas if Stockholm style kind of speaks to you more, then I would definitely say more monochromatic outfits, tailored cuts, definitely like more of a neutral color palette, and just really leaning into that harmony that I talked a lot about and simplicity and kind of very understated, that quiet luxury type aesthetic. So, hopefully, you guys are able to take the knowledge that has been shared in today's video and apply it to your own personal style. I always try to empower on my channel my audience to really take a moment to self reflect on why you are drawn to a certain aesthetic, a certain trend, and really make sure that you're very intentional in your wardrobe and in your personal style journey. And realize that it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be playful. Don't let all the marketing and all the discourse online get you down. Like, this is a lifelong journey of self discovery, and it should be fun and it should be enjoyable. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. As always, we'll be ending today's video with an inspirational fashion quote. Today's fashion quote comes from the absolutely fabulous and iconic Audrey Hepburn. She states, "Why change? Everyone has their own style. When you have found it, you should stick to it." Thank you so much for watching and sticking around for the entire video. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!